Floods due to torrential rain was the threat to casualty evacuation system at one stage. But with the great support of the logistics staff and the hard works of the medics, did not compromise the due care for the casualties. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude this presentation, let me share the lessons we learned from this operation with you. Importance of having medically qualified men and frontline who initiated the treatment within few minutes of injury was highlighted throughout the operation. Presence of capable medical officers and paramedics in the field helped to minimize mortalities and save so many limbs in this type of high-intensity battle. This was enhanced by presence of an effective, practical, and sustainable medevac system, use of antibiotics for the injured from the beginning to avoid unwanted complications, and availability of blood transfusion services from ADS onwards, and availability of good communication system for the medical officers to solve their complicated problems without any delay. Additionally, frequent visit of the Direct Army Medical Services and his staff to the field who joined the medics at ADS and MDS to treat casualties was an encouragement, not only to the medics, but also to the field commanders and the combatants. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude this, I would say proper planning, training, effective mobilization of available resources, dedication and commitment of involved people at all levels resulted in saving so many lives and limbs of this type of high magnitude, multi-fronted operation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Major General Sanjay Munasinghe, for your illicit presentation on medical support extended towards the defeating the LTT. Without the total dedication and commitment of the officers and the men of the logistic services, defeating LTT wouldn't have been a possible task. So we pay our tribute to the logistic officers and men of the Sri Lankan Army. Before we get on to the question and answering session, we will now discuss the other important winning factor, also the war-winning concept of infantry transformation to operate in small groups with a touch of conventional and unconventional tactics and concepts, and also the training involved. This was also discussed by previous speakers. However, now also we should see there was a time that LTT terrorists dominated the jungles and they had the supremacy over the Sri Lankan forces. In fact, capturing LTT bases in Mullaitivu jungles was almost an impossible task. However, with the adaptation of the innovative concept of small groups dominating the jungles, LTT lost their freedom of action in jungles. This new methodology tremendously improved the skills and the quality of officers and men. This battle-proven doctrine facilitated winning the war with minimizing the number of casualties and collateral damage, and moreover, almost achieving the zero casualties on civilians. So to talk about this important aspect of special infantry operations and evolution of the infantry, I am fortunate to introduce Brigadier Ralph Nogueira, who was throughout involved in this process of transforming infantry into this concept, and who was one of the main field commanders of the battle against LTT. Brigadier Ralph Nogueira was enlisted to the Sri Lanka Army as an officer cadet in June 1985 and underwent his basic training in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. He was commissioned into the Sri Lanka Light Infantry, and Brigadier Ralph Nogueira completes almost 27 years of illustrious service with the infantry, most of which in combat. Apart from his command of a platoon and a company, he commanded an infantry battalion in the air mobile role and raised and commanded the 1st Mechanized Infantry Brigade of the Sri Lanka Army. He also commanded the Elite Commando Brigade during the final stages of the campaign. He has served as GOC Task Force 2 and Task Force 3. He has also held important training appointments such as Commandant Infantry Training Center and Director Training at the Army Headquarters. As I said, he was a member of the team that was instrumental in planning and development of the infantry small group concept, which transformed the infantry into an effective fighting force. For bravery and distinguished service in the face of the enemy, he has been awarded 5 gallantry medals, including the 3rd highest in Sri Lanka WWV. He has suffered a number of injuries in combat, for which he has been awarded Deshaputra, equivalent to Purple Heart. He has attended training at varied levels in prestigious training establishments in and outside this region. At present, he is the Commandant of the Army Training School, Madhuraya. Over to you, Ralph.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In my 20 minutes, I intend presenting to you an understanding of how an innovative infantry small group concept inspired and transformed a new generation of infantrymen. And this will include the training as well. It could be safely stated that the tactical level of operations was dominated by small groups. This campaign was successfully waged across all levels of conflict, from the tactical areas of responsibility and theaters of combat to the forums of international diplomacy. However, ultimate success came by winning on the ground, by winning the patrol skirmishes, by contesting the LTT in the dense jungles of the north and the east, and by confronting and defeating the deadly suicide cadres. Prudent analysis of the past dictated the development of innovative concepts in which the infantry transformed into small groups, blending conventional and unconventional warfare, concepts and tactics to suit the nature and environment of the conflict. In short, small groups of light infantrymen with meager equipment, sharpened individual and team skills, and an innovative approach to counterinsurgency defeated the LTT at their own game in their own backyard. The sequence of my presentation is as shown on the slide. Before I get on to the concept proper, let's have a look at a few influencing factors. Heavy casualties suffered due to the employment of mass formations against an elusive guerrilla army. Almost 60% of the casualties suffered during the previous conflict, that was Iran 3, were due to indirect fires. The LTT's concept was to combine guerrilla warfare, positional defense, and IEDs to slow down and inflict heavy casualties by the extensive use of indirect fires. Infantry operations in massed brigade and battalion size echelons suffered dearly.